Am I doing the intro or are you doing the intro? We had this problem last time.
You do the intro.
Okay. Hi, welcome to a very special one-shot with my good buddy Jason.
Hi, everybody.
We will be doing in a similar vein to the one-shot we ran with Strahd and his backstory. We'll be doing one about my character, and I'm sure it won't be upsetting and soul destroying at all.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that it's as smoothly soul destructive as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good. Cool. I'm excited for it. But hey, before we get into the Susie torture,
Absolutely.
Let's do announcements and stuff and just general housekeeping. So hey, tomorrow is Bike Club, and that is Curse of Strahd campaign. Hey,
Woohoo.
Vampires are on the mind. Wonder if it's Halloween. Speaking of, we will be playing an hour earlier than usual, which will be 7 p.m. GMT. So that's
2 p.m. CST.
Thank you.
No worries. With that time shift, it's been a little bit different to sort of orient our schedules.
Yes, because daylight savings is a crime and should be stopped.
Indeed.
So we will be going live an hour earlier than usual, so make sure that you tune in for that. On Thursday, I will be doing The Order, which is the weekly viewer game for Encounter Roleplay.
It's also very good.
You can tune in for that, where I'm going to rip off another beloved horror franchise on Thursday.
Ooh, any slight reveals that we can perhaps garner today?
There will be 13 very specific enemies.
Ah, interesting.
I
hope nobody in that game just watched this.
But it'll be a fun, spook-filled Halloween extravaganza. Maybe.
Probably.
Don't hold me to that.
Hopefully.
And then on Friday, I am on the Greyhawk channel for the weekly Friday game, Uprising in the Perrinlands, where I play a elven wizard called Asha Bellinar. So you should tune in for that. And I think that will be at 5 p.m. GMT. I don't know. I need to check all these times because, hey, daylight savings time. Hashtag down with DST. Exactly.
Hashtag down with DST indeed.
It's bad. Besides that, you can catch up with all my shows that are on this channel on my YouTube, which I'll put in chat, which is, oh, no, that's escape. That's not exclamation mark. Oh, I'm doing this in caps lock. I'm such a professional streamer. There we go. So, catch up with all the D&D shows at that very handy link right there. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, which is below our names. Is there anything else, if anything you want to plug or say, Jason, before we get started?
Well, the only plug that I have is hyper-specific, especially only to my area. I'm in Texas, which in the current state is having early voting. If you are registered to vote in Texas, I implore you, I plead with you today, please vote. If you can't make it in the early voting period, voting is on November 6th. We need everybody to show up. We need everybody to contribute because, and I know this is probably the common thread that you've heard in a lot of campaign ads and everything. This is one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. So even if you don't believe that, please drag yourself out of bed, drag yourself to the polls. I did it Saturday, I think. And especially if you live in Dallas County, because hoo boy, the county lines are so fun to deal with. Check your polling places and don't do anything I wouldn't do. And if you do, just don't tell me.
So go vote. You better vote. If I hear you haven't voted, you'll be in trouble.
Indeed.
Go vote.
You probably won't be in trouble, actually. Nobody cares.
I care. We care.
Yes.
Care, so go vote.
We here at Susanna Grace, LTD.
PSA.
This has been your PSA. Just, But other than that, if you want to follow my Twitter. I sometimes post, I sometimes don't. Have fun. Regardless. And I think that's everything on my end.
All right, then. Shall we get into it?
If you want, I
Well,
mean...
this feels so bad on the other side of the table, huh?
Yeah, it's so bad. By the way, on Susanna Grace's YouTube channel, there is a video called I, Strahd. This was the inspiration for this current session, which is creatively named I, Ellanna. Totally original concept, don't steal. As it stands, I think that's everything. Catch up on I, Strahd, if you want to see how I, as Baron Strahd von Zarovich, faced the terrors presented to me by the one across the table today.
Terrors, please.
It was pretty terrible. I mean, not quality, but like...
Wow. Okay.
No.
Let's just start before we...
Let's start, shall we?
Before destroy our friendship and the stream.
Indeed. Strahd von Zarovich strides through the shadowed halls of Castle Ravenloft. The night has come, its moonlight coldly veiled by the storm clouds which thunder their way into Barovia. He makes his way to the tower, to where it all began. Ascending the stairs, his eyes survey all that is contained within his cursed realm, and when he finally reaches the top, he feels the edge of his lips curl downward. Atop this mournful height, he tastes the bittersweet blood of those he has conquered, those he has lost. So many have come before, and so many are yet to come. But as the thunder heralds the rain, only one piques his interest tonight. Ellanna Sulanen. Where would we find you in the present moment?
Ellanna would be amongst her books.
Of course. The library has been a refuge for you ever since your rebirth. Its dusty tomes and somewhat hallowed halls bring to you a sense of comfort. Most nights, at least. First roll of the evening.
Oh, God.
I'd like you to roll a wisdom saving throw.
Okay, well, look, it's an 18 on the dice.
An 18 on the dice, okay.
So that would be 30.
As you sit amongst these dusty tomes of these fetid halls, your nostrils fill with the scent of faded opulence and mildew. These histories, these blasted histories. Who would ever read them? What mad scholar would delve into these wretched halls seeking knowledge? How foolish a venture it is to catalog the events of this dread plane. To what profit? To what end? To what gain are these useless? Your next breath is long and deep, purifying almost. The warmth of the candlelight shines upon your tired face, and these biting thoughts wither as they so often do. You are no stranger to the darkness that besets Barovia, and yet its whispers still pester you in the doldrums of the night. The stacks of vellum that you have toiled over so diligently these past hours, days, weeks, who knows? At any rate, they lay before you, scattered by a brief and uninvited gust of wind. The soft pitter-patter of rain. Breaks the roiling anger for a brief moment. The clanging of a window thrown ajar by the wind, which rages outside Barovia, outside Castle Ravenloft, is yet another distraction visited upon you tonight.
I think at that point, I'd just very pointedly, just put everything down. Just take a moment, pinch the bridge of my nose, take a deep breath, and then move over to find this window and close it.
The window, unfortunately, is a little bit higher than some of the floor level. It's one that allows the sunlight to stream in a little bit more early than usual, so that scholars might wake in the morning and read their tomes in peace. You'd have to get a ladder, and, well, there is one. Hefting it is no problem, especially for one such as yourself. One who used to rule more than just this library. You settle it against the window.
Yep.
Like for you to just make a dexterity check.
What is that? That's 16. Jesus. Right.
16.
Yeah.
All right. Another thunderclap accompanies your ascent up the ladder as the rain intensifies. Hopefully you're able to get to this window soon, as the downpour cascades. You're diligent, deliberate in your steps, as you are in so many other things. You close the window, begin to make your way back down, when all of a sudden you hear a slight tapping.
Can I tell where the tapping's coming from?
Make a perception check.
24.
Easily. It's coming from the window that you just closed. As you see, halfway down the ladder, you see, right at the window, diligently standing on the windowsill, a small raven.
What are you doing here? I'll climb up the ladder.
All right. As you climb up the ladder, open the window a slight bit, flutters in, diligently and dutifully landing on your desk, hopping from side to side.
Close the window again. Back down the ladder. Make my way over to the desk. What news do you bring me, friend?
Tilts to the side, its entire body, then just its head. Jumps back and raises one of its wings. Upon it is a leather pouch of some sort that runs the length of its body. It is stamped with the seal of the von Zarovich family.
I'll take it.
All right. The parcel comes off the raven with nary any effort. The raven itself departs and flies to one of the nearby bookcases, observing you.
I'll just point and go, we've had words about this. Outside.
Hops to side.
I'll look at the parcel package.
All right. Contained inside is a letter. Again, with utter elegance and grace, stamped with the wax seal of the von Zarovich.
I will open it.
Opening
with
it?
An eye roll.
With an eye roll, obviously. The following missive is relayed to you. Sires, I grow weary of our petty feud, and this rain annoys me immensely. The land offers nothing of interest tonight. I've yet to even bother myself with preparing Ravenloft for our guests, so foul is my mood. Yet despite this, I find myself in good spirits tonight. for I've something to share with you. Rest assured, before I retire, I will visit your sanctum here in my abode, arriving with no biting remarks or sarcasm, merely with a want to return to you the gift which was so freely bestowed upon me during a previous encounter. Would that I could explain more fully, but alas, the winds bellow and scatter my will to write further. Ever, etc., etc. Strahd von Zarovich.
Lucky us, Peter. Tell me what a guest.
Is there anything you would like to do in preparation for Strahd's arrival?
I would move whatever it is I've just been working on away from the fireplace in my desk after last time. I would let the raven out.
It flies without even a second thought or consideration.
Tidy up the place a little bit. And I think despite herself, Ellanna would take a moment to make sure that she looked pristine and perfect, as if nothing is bothering her, even though she's having a really bad evening.
Absolutely.
She will not let that show to Strahd, so she'll take the time to just, tidy up a little bit. And I feel like before he even gets there, long before he even gets there, she's sat waiting for him behind her desk, acting, with like maybe a quill in her hand, so when he comes in, she could be like, oh, hello.
I didn't see you there.
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah.
Go ahead and make a deception check, just to see how you maintain this ruse.
Deception. 17.
This is a dance that you are familiar with, though it is usually not heralded with a letter.
Nope.
Strahd is one of impulse these days. Whatever adventurers have made their way across Barovia have, at least by your recollection, disturbed him, or at least distracted him. Even the prisoner that he keeps in the dungeon has fallen to the wayside, in a certain sense. His machinations are usually so clear, but his mood has been strangely mercurial as of late. Another thunderclap heralds the opening of the library door. Strahd does not appear. Instead, a soft flow of mist arrives. It clings to the ground almost. The fireplace is still light. All of your candles are perfectly fine. But as it crawls across the floor of the library, a distinct chill settles in the air. Only then does your host graciously reveal himself. Opening the door very gingerly, you see the form of the Baron, Strahd von Zarovich. He's dressed in a rather... Well, make an insight check.
Got wisdom out the ass, that's gonna be good. That will be 22.
He's dressed in a manner rather unkempt. His clothes are sticking to his body almost. Seems he's been wearing them for a few days. His hair is ever so slightly disheveled, and though the differences are subtle, this is not the brooding and bastardly warrior of Barovia. This is a ruler who is tired and, as I said, unkempt. He stills himself for a moment, takes a deep breath, and ignores the obvious recognition of his current state, striding to your table and sitting across from you. How goes it, CRS?
I'm having a rather nice, quiet evening. Thank you, Count.
I would hate to disturb it, of course.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. Now what can I do for you?
Share in my company. Answer my questions.
This is quite unlike you, Strahd. Are you alright?
As you ask that question, another thunderclap. His breath is a little ragged for a moment, but he stills himself and smiles. I am. But to show concern for someone such as myself, 'tis quite odd of you. Wouldn't you agree?
I once walked a higher path. Old habits die hard, as they say.
Sometimes they just die. He muses. Stilling himself again, he claps his hands. With practiced flourish, appearing on the table before you are 2 goblets and a bottle of red wine. I have been lacking in hospitality. Drink your fill.
Am I missing some occasion?
I would not blame you for forgetting this instance.
Please, refresh my memory.
I intend to. But first, a drink. He grabs the bottle, pours himself a very conservative amount, and hands it to you.
Mm-hmm. I'll pour myself a similar sort of, not overdoing it, but not to be rude.
He raises a glass. Drinks it. Downs the whole thing. Sets it on the table. The wine trickles from his lips, and he wipes it away, somewhat frustrated with himself. It is my return which we celebrate. An anniversary most auspicious for both of us.
Put my goblet down and sort of push it away from me.
You cannot say I did not try. How long was it? He looks out the window to the rain that falls. Your reign.
Too long.
I speak in years, not in metaphor.
200 years.
He pauses, a laugh escaping him. 200 years. Anyone would be proud for such success.
I never wanted to rule, and you know that.
Then why did you bite my neck?
You had to be defeated.
Ah. And we see how that has ended.
We do. Are you here to poke me again, Strahd? We've been through this for many years. This back and forth, you and I.
Indeed. He raises a hand. As the hand is raised, the rain stops. Does it still sting, CRS? He looks to you, and only now do you see the weariness that clasps at him. The Feely was always so fond of her fetid incantations. How fitting that a single word from her would be your undoing. Although Sven's mighty blows must have aided in some manner. His mind was a tad tepid by my recollection. And yet, what a fighter, through and through. Ah, and who could forget Barovia's own spirit of vengeance? Anna. A finer revenant there never was, I am sure. He stills himself and sighs wistfully, his eyes closing in contentment. But still, all pale in comparison to the efforts of your brother. Wouldn't you agree?
Why? Why do you summon these ghosts from my past, Strahd?
Summon ghosts? A dark chuckle escapes him. Because they are yours. At this, I would like you to roll a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. 15.
Oh, the rain has stopped. A boom of thunder still escapes from the sky. The mists on the floor swirl and become one with the torrent of wind that has just entered the room. The scene shifts and brightens brilliantly as golden sun rays halt the rains and fill the library with light. Strahd drags his hand through the mists which surround you and looks to his palm in relief. He sighs and makes his way to the door, the gloom following ever patiently. His eyes meet yours for a moment as he stands with his back to the door. For so long I have wanted to bestow upon you this treasure. Cherish it dearly, Ellanna. For tonight, we shall avail ourselves of your regrets. With that, Strahd vanishes from sight, fusing with the fog as the door creaks open. In his place stands a young woman of slight build and tender disposition, peeking through the doors of your library with fearful inquiry playing on her face. Her eyes are wide with wonder and trepidation. Lady, uh, uh, Baroness Ellanna, are you all right?
I will immediately just look around. Do I recognize this time, this place? Is it my library as I know it now, or?
It is the library as you knew it then. Roll an history check.
Okay. What is history? 15 again.
All right. This was early in your reign. Not even a week had passed since you had... Well, you claim that not even a week had passed, but it had been some time. The time frame itself matters not. Its place in time does. You, at least for a moment, try to recognize your surroundings, but the utter splendor of it all takes you aback. This is Ravenloft as you remember it at the start. It was still decrepit, and perhaps not exactly the most opulent, but it was yours, squarely.
Do I recognize the voice calling out?
Indeed, and you recognize her form, especially with a 15 history. You'd probably have some inkling of this woman. Corina. Corina was her name. At least the name that you remember. Roll another history check.
25.
Ah, Corina. She was one of the first to reach out to you, correspond with you, actually, on the subject of perhaps leading or being a part of a caravan that left Barovia. She was the only literate in her village, and so her words were simple, plain, and yet betrayed a kindness of spirit. She looks to you, however, with concern. And again, in tones. Baroness?
Just before I answer her, I just want to touch my surroundings just to confirm that I'm here.
Tangible, absolutely physical. Everything that as you remember it, even the feel of the grain of the desk. It's as it was.
I'll take a moment to be like, the fuck, inwardly before I look up and Karina, my apologies.
Are you quite all right, Baroness?
Yes, sorry, lost in thought.
I am so sorry to disturb, and even more sorry to intrude upon your castle, but the caravan awaits outside.
Is today the day?
Well, we still must travel to Barovia, the town, and pass through the eastern border, but today is the day.
Very well. Is there anything I can help with?
There are some leaders, elders of some of the villages and families. They have questions.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go out then.
She nods and sort of mousily steps out of the library, awaiting you on the threshold.
I will just stand up and be like, oh shit, I remember this. Alright, dust myself off, get ready and step out with Karina.
Okay. As you walk amongst the many halls of Ravenloft, you see them slightly restored. Architects were few and far between in Barovia, but what stonemasons and craftsmen you could find, you put to work pretty diligently and fairly. The coffers of Barovia were not the most full, but this would be worth the effort. After all, as Baroness, you needed an abode befitting of the title. As you walk, Karina sort of sheepishly avoids your gaze, kind of wringing her hands almost. Thin wisps of blonde hair kind of blow back as she makes her way along the halls of Ravenloft with you.
Is there something troubling you, Karina?
Make a persuasion check.
Oh no! Okay, so here's the thing, right? I've got all these really cool vampire stats, but my charisma is in the toilet. Persuasion?
Yeah.
That's a 10.
Well, you are the leader of Barovia, so I think a 10 would do.
I have some sway, some influence.
Yeah, and Karina kind of is surprised at your question. She kind of actually stops in her step and clears her throat. It's just that it's taken a few weeks to get everyone in order, and though the Vistana have been more than gracious in packing our belongings for the road, and of course I thank you for corresponding with me.
But?
For too long, Barovia has been ruled by someone who sought to build walls instead of bridges. A part of me grieves for him, of course, but another celebrates the joys that lay outside this cursed, formerly cursed land. And I wonder, you've traveled much, yes?
Some, yes.
How is the world? The one that awaits us beyond the mist?
It is large. It is complex. You will meet people of all walks of life, from all creeds. But it is a good place.
Yes. Good place. Oscar has said as much. One of the Vistana. He has been to Ravenloft once or twice. It's how I was able to find the library. We should probably leave. She kind of slumps her shoulders.
I'll put a hand on her shoulder.
She freezes. Absolutely petrified.
And I'll be like, oh, I'll very awkwardly take it off again. As you said, we're in a new age. There's a lot to discover.
She nods, somewhat encouraged by your words. Yes, wait. Come. Please. Lead the way, of course.
I'll go out. And I'll sort of chuckle slightly under my breath, just to be like, oh, she's adorable. You know?
Yeah. Making your way through, again, more wonderful halls of Ravenloft. You find your way through the front gates and are greeted by a somewhat strange sight, at least for Ravenloft. A courtyard full of carts, horses, merriment of a sort, but tension. As you enter in, you see a menagerie of people. Young, old, lame, blind, young and vigorous. A cadre of older, mostly men, stand in the center of this sort of wheel of caravans that have been formulated in the courtyard. Amongst them stands one dressed in brightly colored clothing, a stocky man of a very forceful personality. At least you can see by the way in which he pats the chests of the men and graciously prostrates himself before the ladies. Going into the courtyard properly, Corina kind of lets out a slight whistle, and the elders' attention is caught. You can't recall the faces. They were too numerous. They were too grateful, similar in a sense, but only in emotion. As you descend, they rise to meet you, almost swatting away playing children as they as they go along with hoops and sticks. The first of the elders to meet you reaches out to you, his hand, his palm open to you, hoping to clasp your hand.
I'll reach out my hand.
The grip is tight, absurdly tight, and yet he lowers his head and nods very graciously. Again, the features are obscured mainly through time and whatnot, at least for the elders. And as they surround you, each in voice a litany of questions, cascades. You can't discern one from the other. This torrent continues and continues until finally one, the brightly colored clad fellow, raises his hand. Please, please, one at a time. The Baroness does not have 10,000 ears to listen.
Do you have Oscar, I assume?
He looks to Corina. Oh, you can't keep a secret to save your life. And Corina kind of shies away. Indeed.
Pleasure.
Baroness! A voice, clear and distinct, rings out. Is all this effort, this caravan, is this sanctioned by you?
Yes, you are free to come and go as you please.
There are a couple of murmurs through the crowd before another voice pipes up. And are we free to come back?
Absolutely, if you wish to do so.
In
In fact, I would rather like it. We have a lot of work to do here.
A couple of the elders nod and kind of look to each other. They scratch at their necks and kind of try to formulate a question. One question, however, in particular, rings out after a while. Baroness, it has been long, but the fear still stands for some of us elder folk. Does the Baron still draw breath?
No. He does not.
The devil is gone?
He is.
Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion is a flat 0. That is a 16.
16. All right. Again, their faces are sort of amorphous, featureless almost. But they seem relieved. A few of them actually let out hearty cheers. They nod, and their questions sort of ceasing. Corina steps to the forefront now. If that is all, elders, please, I've a matter to bring to the Baroness. If you have any more questions, I am sure that she, in contrast to the former ruler, would be more than happy to oblige with answers.
I just have smile and nod behind her.
Some skeptical glances are shared between the figures. But they adjourn. Oscar stays behind, perched on 2 of the steps that lead to Barovia, or lead to Ravenloft. I'll get that right.
It's fine. Yes, Karina?
It is simply the issue of my brother. He's taken ill, and I heard you were a healer, and I trust, of course, the elders and their wisdom, but I know power lies with you.
All right, where is he?
At the gates, there is a caravan. We have been set apart because he is not well.
All right, take me to him, and I'll see what I can do for you.
Oscar pipes up at this point. If I might trouble you for a moment,
Yes?
actually. Corina, please, allow us to speak in peace. And Karina kind of looks to him, narrows her eyes, and breathes before going to a distant caravan. You see it easily. Oscar looks to you. Apologies for yet another matter on your plate. But once this caravan is at the border, I will be seeking work of a sort.
Oh.
I've offered my services many times before. And though I disliked the devil, he found a use for me yet. A use that I freely offer to someone of such nobler character.
And what was that use, Oscar?
Anything that you would wish. If you would have me travel, if you would have me spy, if you would have me simply be a lump on the log.
All right.
I serve Barovia. I serve she who sits on the throne. Allow me to serve with distinction, and you will not be disappointed.
Unfortunately, I can't contact your previous employer for a reference, so I'll have to take you at your word. All right.
Give me the opportunity to do it, and I shall show you. I speak truth.
I'd like to insight check this motherfucker.
Go ahead.
All right. Oh, that's 1,000,000. 32. No, 31.
There's a sketchiness about his form. There are, of course, stereotypes of Vistana being spies for Strahd and all that. He seems to be halfway relying on that, and yet there's a sort of genuine interest. He wants to serve. He wants to serve you, specifically. But might be worth keeping this person at arm's length.
Mm-hmm. Very well, Oscar. Once this caravan returns, you will find yourself in employment.
Ah, marvelous. Might I ask in what capacity?
I'll let you know when you return.
He puts his hand to his heart, bows graciously.
Bow back. Well, a small bow.
Of course. And allows you to adjourn to Karina's caravan, if you would wish.
Yep.
She waits on the steps of it patiently, kind of tapping her foot and looking around. As you approach, she shoots up like a lightning bolt and nods, inviting you inside, going in herself.
All right. What do I see before me?
as you enter into the caravan. It's obviously of the Vistani make and tradition, but it's been outfitted for a Barovian. It's more sparse, less colorful, and the incenses are absent to this whole thing. But what you do smell is something entirely terrible. It does not reek of death, but of sickness.
Mm.
A shivering form lays beneath a pile of blankets. What thin wisps of hair Karina has, this figure has even thinner wisps. And they seem to be, well, make a medicine check.
Medicine is 14.
Some of the hairs seem to have been recently pulled out, rather crudely. Very clearly, you can see that the hands of this sick person gripping tightly at the furs which cover him. Karina goes to his side and lays a hand on his. He shies away with a jolt, and she calms him. Shh. Dargos. The Baroness. She promised to help. Bloodshot eyes look to you directly, in fear and in confusion. What do you wish to do?
I'll stand there with my hands clasped very clearly in front of me. Say, Dagos, may I approach?
He looks to Karina, who nods. Fine. He coughs as he speaks, a soreness in his throat, clinging to it.
I will step forward and I'll move to his bedside.
He pulls the blanket almost up to his neck and underneath his chin.
Mm-hmm.
He's older than Karina, but his form is so battered.
Your sister says you're ill.
Always was the smart one.
She's asked me if I can heal you. And I can, if you would allow me to.
Make a persuasion check.
19.
He smells the air as if something catches his nose. And then swiftly collapses back. Healing. Magic. Does not matter. Bound to the land. Chains. Chains. You see him scratch at his wrists, and it's the first time that you've seen him come from under the covers. They're scabbed over and reeking of pus. It's as if he's been picking at them for a while.
I'll reach out to like his arm, not his where it's freshly wounded, but like his upper arm.
He again recoils and shields the injured part.
Yeah, I very, very pointedly don't move towards that. Put it on the top, his upper arm, and I'll pump a cure wounds into him.
As you try, you feel the magics fly from your hand, and yet they find no purchase. You seem to have wasted a spell slot.
I kind of like look at my hand, very confused. It should have worked. Is there a lantern in here?
There is indeed. and there's a candle in it, but it's like burned to the wick. It's
I'd like to just light it with thaumaturgy, see if it's my magic completely that's not working or just the healing.
It alights and consumes the rest of the wick.
Tell me, Karina, is your brother's current state a new thing? Or is this...
She kind of gulps. It started when we left. He got into a tussle with a Vistani. I don't know the exact words exchanged, but I remember the end of it. She stills herself, stills her mind. May you be forever reminded of the truth. Vistani spat at his feet, left, and he's gotten worse ever since.
It appears your brother is the victim of a Vistani curse, Karina.
Curse?
Yes. I attempted just then, when I touched him, to use my healing magics. But it found no purchase.
Have you another way?
Do I know about breaking Vistani curses?
Arcana check.
Okay. Arcana is... That brings us to a 19.
Though the details are sparse concerning the nature of the curse, it seems as though it would take something stronger than a cure wounds to heal it. Probably a greater restoration. If you had to remove curse or have it, that would be marvelous.
Let me just get to my spells.
Do a little check.
Just a little check here. A little bookie book. Oh my god, spells, stop hiding from me. Yeah, I would have a greater restoration.
Alright.
So, blip.
As you lay your hands upon him, you hear his voice tighten, and wordlessly he writhes against your hands. The candle light flickers on once more, and I need you to roll a perception check.
Oh my god, getting dice tray dice. So that's 10 plus, yeah, it's 22.
All right. In the shadows, you see her. Make a religion check.
Oh god. I should be good at this in theory, having been a cleric in a past life. But that's an 11.
Roll it with advantage.
Thank
because
you.
of who this is.
Thank you, merciful DM. That's 15.
Her face is a mirror to Selena's. And a cruel smile creeps across her lips. In the shadows, Strahd, the sister of Selena.
I don't want this.
A word creeps into your mind and rings out for but a moment. Egg.
Very, very quietly. And I'm trying, like, I've obviously acknowledged this figure, but I'm trying not to freak out everybody else in the room. So I very quietly, under my breath, would say, please.
Make a persuasion check.
Oh man, that's a 14.
The shadow shifts, and you feel a cool air blow behind your skull. Hands drape across your shoulders, slide down, and into Dargos. The tension releases suddenly, and he falls back, exhausted. His body limp. Breathing, but knackered.
Mm-hmm.
Serena smiles and goes to her brother's side, hugging him. he sort of coughs as he is held in almost a death grip.
Mm-hmm. My hands are immediately off him in my lap and trying not to show how perturbed I am by what's just happened.
Wordless thank yous are said by Karina as you back out of the caravan.
Mm-hmm.
And it slowly fades, dissipating into the wind like dust. You stand at the gates of Castle Ravenloft, still clothed in the glorious light of the sun. But as the breeze drifts past your nose, the scent of harvest season, of wheat and land being tilled, comes across your face. You look outside and find tents, of a fashion at least, and a few workers out in the fields, diligently plowing and planting. A voice all too familiar intones at this point. Though Corina was grateful, I'm sure the students of this land appreciated the opening of the libraries even more. Why would you do such a thing?
I wanted them to be free.
Free of what?
Fear. Ignorance.
Fear. Ignorance. These are ills of the world. A person can only be free of them if they wish to be.
And that's where you are ever so wrong, Strahd. Because they did wish to be free of them.
So the truth is what matters. Why lie to yourself, then? Shar had made her presence known. Yet you shy away, lying to yourself for so long. And as you look, you still see that you're wearing the vestments of Selûne, though the amulet that you had is absent.
I was foolish.
Foolish. Foolishness, ignorance. How could you hope to free someone from that which you are enslaved to?
I merely wanted to give them the tools to free themselves.
And so you tried.
I did.
The wind passes once more, and the smell of harvest season gives way to winter. A bitter cold strikes your nose and lips, chapping them. For a moment, you stand at the gates. You look out and see the fields are pitiful. The tents have been left where they stand, And a hand grasps at your shoulder.
Who is it?
Oh. You see a bright, shortly... you see a brightly clothed, short figure. That's what it is. And though there are flecks of gray in his hair, the smile on his face is no less wide. Oscar has arrived.
Oscar.
Baroness.
A pleasure as always.
A pleasure as always.
How are you?
Marvelous. Were it not for your absence from the meeting.
Oh, my apologies.
They still cling to the Great Hall. Follow me. He slowly adjourns to Castle Ravenloft.
Mm-hmm. I follow him.
Right. Winter has hit Barovia particularly hard. The harvest season before was, well, make a history check.
Hang on. That is 23.
The harvest before was disappointing, to say the least. It was not for a want of, want of workers. More rottenness that had spread through some of the crops. Though you were able to fill the larders, you would have to redouble your efforts next harvest if you wish to be successful. Everyone knew this. It was common knowledge, unfortunately. And some had their suspicions, mostly kept subdued. Sometimes not. Regardless, you do remember this meeting. The beginning of winter, before ice was to cling to the roads of Barovia. You called a meeting of the burgomasters that had been most recently elected. Some replied. And as you walk, Oscar kind of breathes in the air very thankfully. I must say, I have never enjoyed the work of politicians. Or envoys. He sort of points to himself.
You're not happy with your position, Oscar?
The grass is always greener.
Mm.
You keep well, Baroness?
Yes, I'm in good health, thank you.
Marvelous, marvelous.
Which is super tiny, a bit of a lie, because I feel like as the harvest was a bit thin, Ellanna would maybe be a bit iffy about feeding on livestock, so she's probably putting off feeding as long as possible between when she absolutely has to.
Well, if ever you have difficulties, and he scratches at his neck, I'm sure you will find some sustenance.
No. But thank you for your offer, Oscar. I think that's what that was.
Make an insight check.
Oh, that's like 28.
Not an offer not to feast upon him, but an offer nonetheless.
Yeah.
And he sort of, hearing a response, kind of clams away. Please, Baroness. I must keep my complexion for as long as I can. My husband would appreciate.
How is your husband these days?
Fine enough. His daughter is a little willful, but Savia will be a fine woman in time.
Tell me, in your work as my envoy, what have you noticed? What's the general feeling of the land?
Farming, mostly. Though I must say, the towns differ. And he begins to walk toward the Great Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Barovia is enamored by Ismark. He sort of scoffs. The Lesser has made himself very comfortable. Kresk is Kresk. Valaki is Valaki. Some of the newer villages have settled in quite nicely. Their burgomasters are inside, if you wish to inquire. On the whole, they are not discontent, merely annoyed.
Annoyed?
Bad harvest brings bad tidings in some people's eyes, especially when perhaps you did everything that you could and others sought to sabotage it.
Sabotage?
Rumors and speculation.
Is there any merit to these rumors and speculation?
Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion? Oh, fuck, that's an 8. God damn it, Ellanna!
Certainly not, Baroness. Certainly not. It is a talk of hungry peasants.
All right. Well, please keep me apprised if that situation changes.
I'm sure others will do that job for me. He chuckles and motions to the Great Hall.
I will step inside.
Inside, you see a small gathering, similar to the elders, but more clearly defined. You hear the gruff voice of the Burgomaster of Barez, Grigory Radova, at first. It's madness, to be sure. To think that crows herald famine, superstition, nothing more. You then hear a sort of softer voice. Tell that to the peasants. Convincing a man to even walk amongst the fields becomes damn near impossible should he find a black feather along his path. The voice of Vasily Taltos, Burgomaster of Krofberg. Sort of more stately figure in comparison to Grigori. Another? Then, Vasily, you have lazy men on your hands, not cursed crows. A few beatings should hasten their step. Soren Antonovich, Burgomaster of Zeidenberg. A woman pipes up at this point. If only we were dealing with Barovians. Ismark has the hearts of his people on a plate. Mirabel Contanti, Burgomaster of Teufeldorf. And only one stands as a familiar figure to you. Shockingly red hair, ever graceful, ever scheming. Fiona Wachter is the last to speak, as she sees you enter. A wise topic to end our present conversation on. The other burgomasters turn to see you and are kind of taken aback before nodding very generously.
Mm-hmm. I nod back.
Fiona, Burgomaster of Valaki, speaks. Baroness Sulanen, we thank you for your audience and wish you good health in this time of crisis. Regrettably, our fellow burgomasters of Kresk and Barovia will not be joining us presently. We will send news of our business here once it is concluded.
I'm sure you will.
Grigori kind of sighs at all of this and looks to you. So, must you be appraised of our present plight?
I'm to understand that the harvest has been unfortunate.
Famine, he shouts at that point. Hungry peasants, all of them. That is our problem. None of them wish to till the fields for winter. We must change this. Of course, you must understand. They cannot live on hope alone.
No, they cannot. But they cannot live under the threat of cruelty, so if I hear any more talk of beatings, action will be taken.
Specifically,
And I
Soren,
shoot daggers at the fucking guy talking about beating his people.
Soren kind of straightens his spine and clears his throat. Merely one of many suggestions, Baroness.
And another I do not wish to hear again.
Understood. He kind of tugs at his collar.
Understand one thing. We will not continue to live under the shadow that Strahd von Zarovich cast upon this land. Do I make myself clear?
A couple of them curse under their breath and spit on the ground.
That's my flaw, guys. Yo!
Whenever Strahd is mentioned, especially when it comes to certain people on the outskirts of Barovia, decorum kind of fades. Grigori, kind of recognizing your revulsion, being the one who spat, stomps at the spit and kind of drags it across the rug.
Oh, that's worse. Stop
Yeah.
it.
Fiona speaks at this point. The burgomasters and I have discussed a possibility that we would wish to present to you, of course.
All right.
An edict. Authority to be bestowed upon us, so that we might enforce mandatory work laws to overcome the superstition which grates our efforts.
Mandatory work laws.
Nothing beyond that which is reasonable, all subject to your approval.
I do not consider the prospect of mandatory work to be reasonable.
Vasily, at this point, kind of pipes up. When the men refuse to work, what do you expect us to do?
To me, that speaks to a lack of leadership. For example, where are you when your people toil in the fields? And I look at Fiona because I know for a fact that she's in a cushy house having a fucking tea parties.
Fiona says nothing. Grigori steps forward at this point. With them, of course. At least in my case.
That is not true for all of you, is it?
Vasily and Fiona, in particular, kind of shy away. Mirabelle kind of being a more older lady. Fieldwork is probably not suited.
Mm-hmm.
The one who suggested the beatings, Soren, he's kind of mute on the subject.
Perhaps a display that you are not above them. You are not above mucking in with them. Perhaps some assurance that you're there to help them, to lead them, rather than to sit there and enjoy tea and scones whilst they starve.
Tea and scones? Grigori steps forward at this point. With what weed would we make such thing? We do not live in luxury. We live in security. And even then, the difference between a mob and a citizenry is very slim. And something so gripping as hunger can make that distinction blurred.
I understand.
It was a mistake to propose such a thing. Of course you would oppose it.
Please, speak your mind on this. You appear to have opinions.
Make a persuasion check.
16.
Opinions? Okay. Soren steps forward, putting a hand on Grigori's shoulder. He wrenches it from his grasp and sneers. While we may have the men work, it will be for nothing if the Martikovs are not dealt with. Fiona at this point steps forward. Grigori, this is in my domain that you meddle. I do it on behalf of those that I serve. You too must have seen it. The land rots. It is not by some nature. It is by something foul, magical. And who else would have reason to do so? We know the Martikov suffered under Strahd. They may be comfortable, but in their comfort, they might seek revenge. Better men have done so for less.
I know the Martikovs. They were great allies of mine and my friends when we defeated the devil. They got their revenge when he bled out on this very floor. They are good people.
Then tell me, Baroness, with utmost respect, where have they been since your ascension?
Where have they been?
Make a history check.
History, that is +7, that is 19.
After the deposing of Strahd, the Martikovs left, disappeared. A few of them still stayed in Vallaki, implied, of course, by Fiona.
Mm-hmm. Do they still run the vineyard that I know of?
No. After Strahd was done, they abandoned it. The pain that is inherent to Barovia, it was too much for some, though some have stayed. Urwin and Danica, specifically. Running the Blue Water Inn as ever.
Mm-hmm. Like some, they chose to leave. Like others, they stayed.
Grigori sighs at this. And now you see why some do not speak their mind. A silence pervades the group for a moment. Fiona, skating across the tension. Can we trust then that the work laws will not be implemented?
I cannot condone mandatory work. I cannot.
All nod. One by one. They leave. You stand in the great hall. Alone. For a moment. You feel a heat at the back of your head. Your vision blurs a little bit. I'd like you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, God. Saving throw?
Yep.
It's a natural 1.
You blink once, open your eyes, and you're in the library once more. Slightly more settled. But you are not in the present. You are still in your reign, and yet there is a darkness here, a stillness. You look to the table, and there is a book, simply bound, awaiting your perusal.
I will go over to it.
The opening page reads, "The treachery of the keepers of the feather. And with that, we'll take a short break.
No! We'll be back in a minute. We'll see you soon.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. Thank you for bearing with us during that short break. I will now hand over to Jason.
Thank you so much. Again, in simple print, the title of the book reads plainly, The Treachery of the Keepers of the Feather. I'd like you to roll an investigation check.
All right, investigation. Ooh, okay, that's good on the dice. Let's see what we got here. It's 24.
More than enough. The tome itself is dense and, well, a little bit obtuse in certain portions, but thorough and scathing against the Martikovs. This Seth Abronovich, whoever wrote it, was quite sure of the evidence that was presented. Beginning with a few excerpts. Famine, though no stranger to Barovia, had been abated for some time after the ascension of Baroness Sulanem. Her presence on the throne gave the land new life and vigor. For a time, the peasantry ate well, but only for a time. For that dreaded acquaintance struck once more, guided by the steady hand of enemies most foul and unnatural, by former saviors turned traitors, by the Martikovs, Urwin and Danica, and the spawn of that dreaded clan. The text continues. The rotted core of the family had been torn out quite swiftly after the first wave of credible accusations swept through Barovia, thanks to the efforts of Burgomaster Fiona Wachter of Valaki. Beginning with the trials of Urwin and Danica, now decrepit in their old age, the evidence, once dismissed as mere speculation and rumor, was laid bare for all to see. These monsters, in a bid to unseat our Baroness, sought to sow discontent through their wicked magics which befouled the sanctity of nature itself, in the vain hope of a revolt that would, thankfully, never come. Where once the vine bore fruit, aided by the keepers of the feather, now there would be naught but ash and bitter harvests, all to spite she who freed us from the devil. Now only their sons and the runts of their sisters and brothers remain, for both Urwin and Danica were ordered executed, their bodies to be composted in the fields so that their lives might serve a use to the land in the end. Brom and Bray, more cunning than their parents, fled deep into the Svalich woods after this, near the domain of Ismark Kolyanovich, then still known as Ismark the Lesser. Though hunger had never touched the city of Barovia since the Ascension, its citizens grew worried. For every passing day gave the sons of the winged scum more time to determine how best to exact revenge. Their beloved burgomaster pacified their minds for a time, but when their cursed vines began to work their way into the fields, no peace could be granted. No matter the silver tongue. Finally, against the advice of Ismark, a group broke through the choking vines which pestered their roads and fields, urged on to grow by the cowardly Brom and Bray Martikov, fleeing to Ravenloft, so that they might call upon their beloved Baroness to exact her terrible justice upon those who had starved their children and robbed their lives of sustenance. At this, you begin to hear a commotion. Not from the Great Hall. Make a perception check.
No wonder I'm traumatized. Perception check. That is 21.
It comes from the throne room.
The throne room?
Yes.
Okay, I will immediately make my way down there.
Okay. It is much quicker than you remember. Your pace is hastened, and panic, though you do not wish to admit it, has begun to seize upon your mind. As you go down to the doors of the throne room, you swing it open, and you see gathered before you a veritable mob. Peasants armed with rakes and pitchforks. Some have meager swords by their side, but most are, unfortunately, poorly clothed, poorly fed, and exceedingly angry. But they are all still. A small light shines from the throne, and flanked on either side you see an elder woman, muscle-bound and hardened by battle. Her thick hands grasp at her arms and are crossed before her in a military-like stance. Beside her, there is a more slight figure, androgynous, and very much inquisitive, at least simply from the eyes. I'd like you to roll a history check.
History, let's go. 20, not natural.
It took her a long time to become the woman that she is today, but Savia, daughter of Oscar, stands by your throne. Captain of the Honor Guard. A very, very comfortable position for Rivistani. And by her stands her child, Ludu. They were not fortunate enough to inherit the physicality of their mother. However, what they lacked in the physical arts, they excelled in the magical. A spell weaver of some renown. To those who were, close enough to the situation. The mob itself is amorphous, and the light still shines from your throne. This was the delegation from Barovia.
I would sort of step forward and try to appear confident, even though in the back of my mind there's a lot of panic, because a lot of people, peasants in a room with pitchforks is never good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll step forth to Savia and Ludu and say, Savia, Ludu, what's happening?
They say nothing. They appear statuesque. And indeed, though you hear the clamor of the mob, you see no movement. The light still shines from the throne.
Oh, son of a bitch, no. Okay. I think I would have that internal son of a bitch moment before I move up to the throne.
Indeed you sit. And indeed, the colors intensify. The faces, still amorphous, shriek at you, angry. And by some accounts, afraid. You've yet to raise a finger to help us, a woman shouts from the crowd, an unwashed mass of anger and hunger. You've a people to defend. Yet here, your best soldiers stand like statues while we starve in our beds. Another voice. I have a son who can see his own ribs through his shirt. He asks me every day why we have no bread. What am I to tell him? What comfort can a father give in this hell? Another slightly softer voice intones. We need your help, Baroness. Your soldiers, your spies, anything. Help us find the feathered ones with your blessing, so that by your laws, justice... She's interrupted. To hell with that! Hunt them down yourself. We've no one strong enough to do away with such evil. A hand clasps at the shoulder of this person and drags him back. Fatim! Are you trying to get us killed? Get them back, you crazy suka! I think what my cousin meant to say was, please help us, great Baroness. We have not much left and we have already come all this way. And the rabble begins to sort of angrily intone at you.
Mm-hmm. What's Savia and Ludu? What are they doing?
They're standing guard, very, very pointedly staring at the crowd. Well, Savia is. Ludo is a little more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. I would gesture for Ludo to come over to my throne.
She leans over. Or they lean over.
I would appreciate some counsel on this. Is what they're saying true?
Ludo nods. By all accounts.
The sons of the Mardikovs?
Indeed.
Doesn't make any sense.
Ah, but it makes too much sense. If only you pay attention.
What do you mean?
Make a persuasion check.
That is a 18.
Ludo looks to you. My grandfather was more than kind in relaying the events of your ascension. Most people think whoever sits in that throne is a danger. Perhaps even the ones you fought with to gain it. Savia looks to Ludo angrily. Wordlessly, Ludo straightens up and looks to their mother.
All right.
The mob is still angry, but settles down a little bit.
And I'll look across to the mob and put my hand up.
They fall silent.
Very well. I will dispatch troops to find the Martikov brothers. I will have them brought here. We'll get to the bottom of this.
You see the anger sort of flood out of the room, replaced by a confusion. They had expected some pushback, some great persuasive effort. But as you intone this, the one who came to the forefront from their cousin Vadim kind of raises a hand.
Yes?
You've no problem with this?
I need to discover matters for myself. So I will find them, and I will talk to them.
Make a perception check, real quick.
Perception. Oh, that's 26.
Unfortunately, you hear Vadim sort of whisper beneath his breath, "So you do not go yourself?" Before immediately one of the fellow peasants clasp their hand over his mouth.
I will pretend I didn't hear it. I want no more talk, or I would not like to see any more people going out into the wilderness just as poorly as you are in this winter. You will die a freezing death before you even reach them. We cannot afford to lose anyone else.
A couple of them seem confused. I need you to roll an insight check.
Oh, that's 31.
You get the sense that this was not what they were prepared for or expecting at all. And you almost get the sense that they have been fed an impression of you that is slightly different from what you are presenting here.
Mm-hmm. I wonder who did it. Oh, she's gonna get it. But I would look across and yeah, I'm mentally like, oh, I know. I know which shady bitch is behind this. But return to your homes. And I will see this matter dealt with.
We will return on the morrow. Thank you for your
What time of day is it? Is it like evening, night-ish?
It's evening,
okay.
Solidly.
For this night, the halls and kitchens will be open to you.
Savia at this kind of grits her teeth.
I just kind of like... Rest. Eat.
They all nod enthusiastically and sort of mutter praises and thanks upon you. They adjourn from the dining hall, led by Ludu. Savia at this kind of sighs. As the doors to the throne room close, you see her kind of biting her tongue.
Yes, Savia? Go ahead, your father never minced his words.
I expect I am to round up the runts.
No, I will go myself. I'm trusting you with my castle tonight.
Alone.
Yes?
I cannot advise this, Baroness.
Savia, please. I'm sure your father told you all sorts of stories about me. About what
Hopefully.
I was capable of. What I still am capable of.
I pray that some of them are still true.
So do I, but we'll find out tonight, won't we? Sorry, that doesn't really put you at ease, does it?
Go. I shall make sure the rabble does not eat us out of house and home.
And I stand up, and as I'm moving, I put my hand on her shoulder and say, I expect to have my castle in one piece when I return.
She nods.
And I'll set out and I'll get ready, get out of my like formal court clothes into some adventuring clothes.
Do you adjourn tonight?
Yes. Straight out. I'll even like set out as like a bat. I won't leave as me.
Your vision shifts as you shift into bat form, and then immediately you're in the Svalich Woods. Make a survival check.
Survival. Ooh, that's good on the dice. Survival is a wisdom skill, so that is 23.
You look around and notice immediately this is the portion of the Svalich Woods which surround Barovia. It's to the northwestern side of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's far from the Zer pools, deep in the darkest parts. And as you look around, you notice footprints. Not of a normal human, but of a human-adjacent thing.
So, here's the thing, though. I still don't fully 100% believe that Bray and Brom are doing what that's being said of them, so I feel like walking through the woods, I wouldn't be trying to hide, and if anything, I would call out Bray, Brom.
No answer.
Okay. I just go deeper, I keep walking. Keep looking for them, calling out every now and then.
Make a persuasion check.
Persuasion. 18. Woo!
As you walk further into the woods, the forest floor feels different, strange. Watching your step more closely, you find spindles. Small bits and pieces. Reaching down, you pick it up. They look like shriveled grapevines, almost. Small, insignificant, rotten. As you roll them between your fingertips, they scatter into black dust. As you come upon a clearing, once more you shout.
Bray? Ron?
A whisper on the wind greets you. You do not see them. Why have you come?
I came to meet old friends.
Friends. Do you slay the parents of friends?
Did not slay anyone's parents.
Urwin. Danica. Another voice. Father. Mother. Killed by Fiona. A servant. Both growl.
Did I know about that, or is this the first I'm hearing about this?
Make a history check.
Oh, bollocks. 8 plus history, 7, 15.
This is the first time you are hearing about this.
I didn't sanction that. Did not know about this.
Devils lie. Strahd lied. You lie.
I am not like him. I'm stood there in the clearing. I have no weapons. I have no armor.
As you stand in the clearing, in the treetops, you see two shadowy forms. Bastard humanoid skins stretched over a menagerie of feathers.
Oh.
They're looking particularly grody tonight. This Brahmin Bray, last of the Mardikovs, look down at you with narrow eyes and even narrower intent.
I did not do this.
A couple of minutes pass. Go ahead and roll a persuasion check.
Oh, this is a straight roll. I hate this. 8.
They jump down from the trees and walk toward you. Together at first, and then splitting on opposite sides. One you see is clearly armed, with a hand crossbow.
Cool.
The other has a short sword.
Mm-hmm.
A whispered word, and the short sword bursts into flame. You come with no weapons?
Come as a friend.
A friend.
I knew you when you were children. I remember you playing.
Make a persuasion check.
Straight roll, let's go. 19.
The demeanor of Brahm, who holds the short sword, softens. Bray is tentatively keeping his eye trained on you and his crossbow pointed squarely at your back.
My hands are like up and, non-aggressive. I was there when I helped your grandfather liberate the vineyard. I was there to mourn those we lost. I was there to help inter them.
That you lost. Brahm's neck cracks a little bit as he looks to you. You say Fiona acted alone?
She did. I had no knowledge of this. This I swear to you.
Both growl for a moment. Another whispered word, and the sword cools. It is sheathed as Brahm stands before you. You were meant to be a protector of this land. To be a keeper of the feather. At this point, Bray kind of sneers. Your failure will be remembered for centuries. He spits at your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And joins his brother, Brahm, both standing side by side. Brahm turns to Bray, Bray to Brahm, and they both look at you. You have revealed to us a true enemy. So now, we reveal one to you. Bray reaches into his pack and pulls out a vial, rolling it to you. A few scant feathers following it.
Pick up the vial.
Do not search for us, for we know who to kill.
No.
Both brothers look at each other, make a persuasion check at disadvantage.
A disadvantage? Ah, shit. Okay, hang on. 5. Son of a bitch.
Brahm steps forward. Look at the vial. Make an investigation check.
Investigation, let's go. 25.
The vial contains a particularly deadly poison by the name of guillotine, known as such for the piercing pain it inflicts at the base of the neck of those it afflicts. As you look to the hand crossbow of Bray, you see a portion of the ochre liquid drip onto the grasses below. Questions abound here, as in order to brew such a poison, one would have to be an alchemist of exceptional skill, or be able to provide enough coin to circumvent the moral objections usually raised by any who would be asked to do so. But as your fingers run over the Kolyanovich family crest, imprinted on the base of the vial, you seem to have your answer already.
What? What? I feel like my grip around that vial would tighten very strongly, maybe not break it, but like there's a clenched fist.
White knuckled.
And even though she knows because of the crest, she will say, "Where did you get this?"
You know where. We met with him. He has met with the abbot. Yes. He nods. Ismark has made strange bedfellows in his twilight years.
For what purpose?
He believed as we believed, Brahm intones, that you are Strahd. Reinterpreted.
I would never be him.
Brahm and Bray both look to each other and then look back to you. We will stay our blade. Brahm, if you stay your blade against Ismark.
Of course. But I will still see Fiona brought to justice. She will lose everything.
Make a persuasion check.
16.
If you do not, Bray holds up the hand crossbow. Without a word, both depart.
Mm-hmm. I will tuck that bad poison vial into my pack, well, into my whatever pockets. I have pockets. And I will make my way back to the castle.
Your eyes shift once more. No wisdom check here required.
Mm-hmm.
For you remember the end of this story. Partially, at least. You arrive back in the throne room, greeted by a blood-red sky. And again, a familiar voice intones. She will lose everything. You kept your promise. At least we know your oath is not broken. For some. Strahd breathes deeply.
Don't smile. I don't like that. Quit that.
After the, shall we say, pacification of Vallaki,
That's a
headed
good word.
by the most illustrious of your honor guard, Ludu, at this point, given the passing of Savia. There was, unfortunately, an unintended consequence. I need you to make a history check.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay, we got an 18 on the dice. That's plus 7, 25.
Across the windows of the throne room, you see the scenes play out. The deposition of Fiona Wachter, her subsequent trial and execution, all under the auspices of Ludu. This caused unrest. Wachter was certainly a stern burgomaster, but Ismark stoked the flames of defiance in the wake of her tragic passing. They refused to pay taxes. They refused to even acknowledge your existence as rightful leader of Barovia. Kresk followed suit. And though the smaller villages were confused, it was only for a time before they were subsumed by Ismark the traitor, or a newly revitalized and somewhat fanatical abbot of Kresk. It took Ludu a while to muster the forces, of course, on your orders, to put down the rebellion, but they did so with great distinction, especially now as you see the throne room flooded with your honor guard, having just dragged in the abbot, manacled and worse for wear. At this point, make a perception check.
That would be a 14.
You are in the full regalia of your goddess, Shar.
Oh, no.
Her holy symbol draped across your neck.
Oh, I'm having a straight up are we the baddies moment because we are boys. Oh god. Okay. And I'd be sat there with like that imperial chin up, like the whole.
It dipped for a moment, and Ludu came to you concerned, their hand resting on your shoulder, as you see the head of Ismark Kolyanovich hanging from their belt.
Oh, this gets worse.
Lunas. Chin up now.
Forgive me, Ludu.
We present to you for your judgment the Abbot of Kresk, leader of the rebellion. Of one rebellion. The abbot does not speak.
A pleasure to have you and receive you in my halls.
He looks to you and smiles. My, how far you've come. From being the plaything of ghostly children in a haunted house to this. Oh, yes, Ismark told me of your escapades. A shame he didn't die young. Would have used his bits to make an even stranger bedfellow for you. We're all just animals after all. Animals, shrouded from heavenly light by darkness eternal. His eyes look to a sky that is not seen. What a joy that the angels will never see this.
I just look at Ludu and say, "You've brought me a madman."
They shrug. Should we silence him?
No,
Pity.
not yet. Tell me, Abbot, have you enjoyed yourself? Raiding around my lands on your great crusade.
Crusade? It was a killing. Ismark was to be the leader. I merely wanted the blood. Seems the lands twist us in different ways.
And now you've had your blood. What next for the abbot?
Entirely dependent on you, Baroness.
That's right. Tell me, what did you hope to achieve by all of this?
I hoped for nothing. Ismark sought to take your place.
Oh, did he?
Yes, to dissolve the barony with some sort of elected system. It was the talk of foolish ideologues. The hearts of Barovians are as black and as rotten as ever. I know. I've seen a few.
I could kill you right now. Have your head displayed on my guard. Pierce your body and leave it dangling by the road. Could do that. Where would the fun be in that? I believe, Abbot, that you and I have a bigger destiny than that. We're two long-lived people.
Long-lived. I am eternal. You are long-lived.
For now. Oh. Just look at his face. That small flinch. Just like the cat that's got the cream, her face just lights up.
Yeah.
Have him put in the east wing. Prepare some quarters for our abbot. Ensure he's comfortable.
For what purpose, huh?
I plan on keeping you around for quite some time, Abbot.
Fine.
I just wave my hand for the guards to take him.
The heavy chains yank on his limbs, dragging him out of the throne hall, quite undignified.
Mm-hmm.
Ludu kind of looks to you. Shame. I had hoped another head would adorn my belt.
It would look rather fetching on you, Ludu, but do you know what he is?
Stupid.
Well, yes, but he's a Deva. Now imagine how much fun we can have. The celestial being is our plaything.
That falls in your domain, Baroness.
That it does, but also... actually, I won't finish that thought. So what remains of Ismark and the Abbot's forces?
Not much, but enough. I suspect the summer will thin them out. And by winter, I'll be back. With more than just one companion.
Good.
They tap the head of Ismark. If there is nothing else.
As you wish.
They walk out. Your eyes shift once more, content. As they open, you're in the courtyard. The scene is different. Castle Ravenloft, make a perception check.
Well, goodbye, D20. That's 19.
It is just that little bit more dark, a little bit more sinister, that little bit less reformed. This was later into your rule, obviously. And a light guides your gaze to the base of the tower, dangling in front of the stairs, ascending it brilliantly.
I'll go over.
You walk at a measured pace, and as you reach the top, your eyes peer out across Barovia. You do not know how much later this is, but who knows? As your eyes scan the horizon, a brilliant flare of silver and green alights and bursts out, turning into a brilliant red. Make a history check.
17.
The son of Ludu, Oscar, as it so happens. He was the one that you sent after the whispers began. Whispers of revolt once more. And of a temple not too far that could grant powers equal to the Baroness. That flare signaled its permanent closure.
I would imagine a smile would just, creep its way into her face.
As the flare goes off, you hear the mad laughter of the abbot in the distant east wing. He's been there for quite some time, and you have not been a gracious host. But it stills as you feel that you are joined at the top of the tower.
Is it like... Oop. I would, I'd tend to face whoever it is.
Strahd stands before you. A little bit more kept together than he was when he first arrived. Walk with me.
All right.
As he descends the staircase, a question rings out. You never intended for any of this, did you?
No, I did not.
He nods, leading you to the garden. Quietly, he traces his hands over the withered bushes, and he stops at one in particular. He draws his hand away, seeing that a thorn has pricked him. A rose bush, decrepit and twisted by the land. He grasps his hand, tightening his grip, and looks to you. The powers are insidious like this. They promise us so much, and yet grant us what we wish, not what we want. Roll an insight check.
28.
You see a tinge of regret. Small, slight, but present. He looks to you. Such is the curse, I suppose.
Curse we both chose.
He shakes his head. Did you know all of this would happen?
Somewhere. Perhaps I did. My foolish hope told me that it didn't, that it wouldn't. I hoped that I could be better.
He looks to his finger. The blood has run down and pooled into his palm. Would that the goodness of a person mattered in Barovia. He turns his back to you and kneels before the rose bush. The scene darkens. Do you still believe knowledge will save you?
No.
Reaching for the withered petals, he palms them in the bloodied hand. Make a perception check.
28.
You do not see the tears that fall. But you only see him stand, turn to you, and look you in the eye. All the exploits I have shown you were taken from the accounts of my servants, who even in my demise served me with great distinction. Yet this final act... He pauses, as the darkness consumes your vision. This final act, I recall, by my own recollection. You are in the dining hall. You see Tefili's blade on the floor. Sven looking in wonder and concern. Anna praying so fervently. And Hachi knelt before you. There's a stillness that pervades, and you feel yourself hoisted to your feet. The wounds are still present, the blood still dribbling down, and yet you are alive. Dead, and uncertainty reigns. Make a religion check.
Oh, God. No. Okay, that is 17.
The wish of your brother has summoned you in the presence of a god that you thought had forgotten you. You see before you the visage of Seluna. Her voice echoes in this void. My child, how far from the path you have wandered. Why did it come to this? Were my blessings not enough? Speak, my lost one. It has been so long since I have heard you. So long since I have listened.
At this point, so many tears, just erupting in tears. I'm so sorry. I thought I could help. I thought this would be the end of it all.
You feel a warmth dance across your temples and cup your face as her hand touches yours. Touches your face. Daughter of Telothren, know that I have never abandoned you. On the day when your fangs sank into his throat, I was there. Shar may have had you in her clutches, but my love for you stood steadfast and true. Never once did I waver in it. And after this is over, never will you doubt. You're always by my side.
Just so many tears. I don't think she even has like a verbal response to that. It just her everything, like she just feels everything.
Make a perception check with disadvantage.
Okay. Perception disadvantage, that's 18.
Okay. Sweet Sulanen. She pulls you into an embrace. It is warm. She strokes your hair, consoling you as a child. I know you fear for your soul. Still your mind. Even as you are loved. With forgiving grace, she releases the embrace and brushes the hair from your eyes, lifting your chin ever so slightly, staring at you with eyes full of stars. The darkness comes, my chosen. The hour grows short. Say your farewells. Her hands drift to your shoulders as she passes through you to stand behind. Now all that is left is the echo of those famous last words. As you stare from beyond this veil, you hear your voice on the material plane speak with such brokenness, with such relief. I'm sorry. And thank you all. Thank you all so much. As the words are spit into the ether, a stillness pervades for a time.
No, you cut that out. I don't like that. That's bad.
Before you feel the tightening of chains around your neck and wrists, you feel their tug begin to drag you backwards as the form of Selûne breaks into 1,000 shadows, which dance around you in delight. Chittering laughter pierces your mind, all at your expense. All at your expense. With no warning, you are dragged through formless dimensions of darkness to a place of eternal wind and chaos. As pandemonium surrounds you, You are hurled into a cavern, roughly, where a form, lithe and tortured, awaits in darkness. Make a perception check, please.
Oh, shit. 19.
Strahd von Zarovich, his abode dark and his intent darker, crouches in anguish as you arrive. His beady eyes, starved and confused, stare into yours. A moment, and a wave of recognition crashes across his face. With shivers of delight, he cackles, his mind clearly far gone. The winds howl and scatter what little thoughts or questions you might have had. He stands his full height and growls. What's your AC?
Okay, so is it as I was right then in that room after my friends had kicked the shit out of me?
Yes.
It's 25.
Okay, so that's that. So that's that plus that. Let's see here. With a 29.
Oh, yeah, that'll hit.
A respectable 29.
A respectable 29.
His fangs sink into your neck wordlessly.
Fair.
With wild abandon. It seems the Dark Powers saw fit for you to serve as the Dreadlord's first feast in centuries. And feast he did. He left you in that cave after gods know how long, and naught but the maddening plain stood company to you. One final wisdom check, please.
Oh my god, it's another nat 1! Too traumatized.
You don't recall how long you spent in Pandemonium. And a lump forms in your throat as you recall it. But as the centuries and centuries and centuries wore on, the winds were replaced with mist. It surrounded you, molded you, and spat you out at the gates of Ravenloft. So long ago. Reborn as you are now. Strahd von Zarovich sits across the table from you. And looks to you. Our reunion was not a time of joy for either of us, I can assure you. You believe knowledge to be a savior. It is a salve, an opiate meant to dull our senses to the torture we must endure. I plead with you, Ellanna, as one who has sat on the throne of Barovia, see the futility of this now, so that we might work towards its end together. We shall receive company soon enough, and if I am to fall, so will you. Perhaps not in this lifetime, but the darkness will see that you return here. Always and forever throughout ageless eons. Stand by my side, and we might yet see salvation.
She stops for a moment as if she has some sort of retort, something to say, and it just dies on her lips. And she just looks at him.
The gift of hindsight. You have your magics, I have this plane.
Perhaps one day
What?
we will be free.
Not if we stand opposed. He reaches out his hand, and I need you to roll a perception check.
That is a 20, not natural.
On one of his fingers, you notice where the thorn pricked him. He has not let it heal. The scar is still there. But he looks to you, hand outstretched.
I'm tired of fighting Strahd. Now I'll put my hand in his.
For a moment, he seems amazed almost. But his hand grasps around yours and looks to you. So am I. He lets go of your hand. Sighs. And you see him grip at the back of the chair, almost fainting from weariness. Apologies. Breathes deeply and looks to you. Some response, some assurance.
Just sort of look at him and nod. Like, that whole sort of like, I'm feeling that too, you know? Like, a nod of same, but with respect this time, without the sort of, you know, they've played that sass battle, they've, you know, disrespected each other a lot, but this time it's like
Genuine.
like, I see you, yeah.
He bows for a moment, disappearing into mist and then walking back to the door, reforming. I have assigned to you an agent of the utmost skill and intelligence. They will arrive on the morrow. Use his gifts wisely and with tact, for there will soon be one less servant in Castle Ravenloft. He grips at the door tightly, his fingers digging into the wood, rotted as it is. It softens as he feels the scar with his thumb and adjourns from the library.
A huge breath just leaves Ellanna's chest, and she just sort of deflates and just processes everything that's just happened. And that there's like at least one tear that forms when she thinks about how close she was to freedom and having that just dredged back up. Just weariness. She just sort of deflates in her chair.
They sanctified your corpse on Hatchie's orders. But still you reside here in Castle Ravenloft. For how long? Who knows? The rains return. Softly this time. No clash of thunder. No roar of lightning. save for the few muted in the distance. And you sit as the candles burn out and the firelight dies. And with that, we'll go ahead and call it a night.
Oh my god. Wow. Wow. I'm feeling a lot right now. All very good though.
Never ask me for anything ever again.
You know, Jason was like, hey Susie, do you want to do a one shot? And I was like, yeah, sure. He was like, cool. Do you want to get hurt? And I'm like, yeah, fuck, it'll be fun. Ow. Oh. Wow, amazing. Freaking spectacular job, my dude. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Glad to be a part of it.
All right. Well, that was a brief summation of Ellanna's, 2 centuries of terror. and big feelings. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Jason, for that fantastic job. Holy shit. So yeah, if you have just caught us or you came in halfway through, this will be up on YouTube very soon. So you'll be able to watch this back. The previous one-shot that we ran together, just me and Jason, was called I, Strahd, and that is also up on YouTube. So if you want to see why Strahd was being so mean and getting his revenge, you can see that too. Is there anything you want to say, Jason, before we sign off for the night?
As I said at the beginning of the stream, while things are fated in Barovia, it is not fated in the United States. Please vote. That's all I ask.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. We're gonna peace out for now, but we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Adios.
Oh, no, I don't have a goodbye screen. Oops. We'll put the BIP screen. Bye!